Chapter 15. Lucy. Lucy was nearly asleep when a sound disturbed her. She lay there, trying to figure out what it was. The house was silent. She threw back the bedsheet and started to climb out of bed. The hallway light went out and she froze. A glance at the alarm clock, which sat on her bedside cabinet, showed it wasn't only the light off. There was no power at all. She stumbled out of bed and over to her door where she'd left her handbag, taking her phone out so she could use the light of her screen as a torch. She groaned when she pressed a button and the words, "Battery low," were written on the screen. She'd forgotten all about putting it on to charge. It had been the furthest thing from her mind when Tanner had left. She guessed she better find a torch. Still holding her phone, the screen dark again, she carefully made her way through the house. She headed for the kitchen where she was sure there was a torch in the bottom drawer. Freezing in the doorway, she stared at the figure clambering through the kitchen window and onto the bench. She guessed she must have made a sound because the shadowy figure turned towards her. The two of them remained frozen for a moment, silhouettes in the darkened kitchen, light from the streetlight struggling to enter the window. The intruder moved first. Lucy spun, racing for the front door, her grip tightening on her phone as her heart leapt. This couldn't be happening. The first weekend she had the house to herself and someone had to break in. Reaching the front door, it took her a moment to get it open before she raced into the night, the sound of footsteps pounding behind her. She had no idea where to go, especially barefoot and in her pajamas. She ran down the center of the road, the bitumen beneath her feet feeling like it was cutting into her. Behind she could still hear footsteps. They kept time with the beat of her heart, seeming to grow closer. When she realized she was heading in the direction of the school, she thought of Jack. Was this it? Was this what he needed to help her with? The intruder continued to chase after her, only the sound of his feet letting her know he was there. Why didn't he say something? Yell or call out to her? Anything. It seemed worse that he ran after her not saying a word. And where was everyone? Friday night there'd been people about. Not many, but a few. Ones she could have run to and begged for help. Tonight there seemed to be none. Although it was much later than she'd been out last night. If it could still be considered night, since it was more than likely around 2 a.m. Sunday morning. Then she wondered why she was even thinking about the time. All she should be worried about was escaping. Ahead of her she could see the fence and she veered towards the footpath, calling Jack's name under her breath. A second later he appeared at the fence, an indistinct figure in the night. She tried to run faster but couldn't. Even when Jack called her name, urging her to hurry, she still couldn't go any faster. Just before she reached the footpath her pursuer tackled her, his arms going around her waist. She sprawled across the road, feeling gravel cut into her hands and knees. She struggled to escape but he refused to let her go, grunting as her elbow caught him in the face. "Lucy. Come on, Lucy. I can't help you while you're out there." "I can't leave the school grounds," Jack said. She wriggled out of the arms holding her, kicking out at him as she scrambled to her feet, racing to the fence. She grabbed hold of the top of the fence to pull herself over when a body slammed into her, trying to tackle her to the ground. Jack clasped her hands firmly, pulling her towards him. "I don't know how to help you fight him. Only you can see and touch me." She twisted and turned, trying to break free as she clung to Jack's hands, kicking at the person who held her. He grunted and loosened his grip. "Pull me over the fence, Jack." She cried out in pain as Jack dragged her over the fence, landing sprawled on top of him. Even though he broke her fall, her hands hit the ground, dirt and sticks making the grazes on her hands hurt even more. "Get up. Hurry. He's getting over the fence." Jack pushed her off him, helping her rise. He held her hand tightly, racing through the trees towards the school buildings. "Where are we going?" She checked over her shoulder to see if she was still being followed. What did he want? Why couldn't he leave her alone? She didn't care if he stole the television. He could take her laptop too for all she cared. Just as long as he left her alone. We might be able to lose him amongst the buildings. Another glance behind her showed the pursuer wasn't close enough to hear her words if she kept her voice low. "I can't keep running. My legs are aching, I've got a stitch in my side and my hands and knees are grazed and bleeding." "Do you want him to catch you? Who is it? Do you know him?" "I wouldn't have a clue. There hasn't been enough light to see him, but I doubt I know him. It's just some stranger who broke into my home." "This way." Jack abruptly changed direction. "Can't you do anything?" "I'm a ghost, Lucy. There's not much I can do. But I know this school, including every place to hide if we can lose him for a minute." She glanced behind, relieved to see more distance between her and her pursuer. Maybe they could lose him long enough for her to hide. "Why go this way?" "So we can see him. There's a light that's always on near the main entrance." She didn't know how that was going to help, but didn't bother asking. She was now barely able to breathe, let alone continue to hold a conversation. She glanced down at the phone in her hand as she kept running. There wasn't enough charge to make a call, but she should be able to send a text message to her sister if she could get a few seconds to type it. She looked around. Here probably wasn't the best place to try. Not with all the buildings to run into, but unless she could lose her pursuer, there probably wasn't going to be a better time. "Don't let me run into anything." She started to type in the message, one-handed. It was painstakingly slow as she glanced between the screen and where they were going. "What are you doing?" Jack asked. "Sending my sister a message that I need help." She stumbled. "Be careful." She didn't bother answering. Breathing was more important. She finally finished typing the message and sent it. Battery low. At school. Being chased. Call police. Now she had to hope her sister was awake and took her seriously.